One AFL player scored 700 career goals by taking more time lining up for goal than he was allowed. Another did a move so dangerous that it ruled an opposition player out of a final series. These are more AFL players that forced rule changes. Nothing comes close to the time Braden Maynard forced a rule change so severe that it ended up being one of the biggest controversies of the year. It all kicked off during the first qualifying final of the 2023 AFL Final Series, when Maynard jumped up to smother Angus Brayshaw's kick, but ended up colliding with him. Maynard chose to bump at the last moment, saying that it was a reflex and not intentional. Melbourne fans were obviously very upset, as they ended up losing Brayshaw for their crucial semi-final clash against Carlton. The match review officer suggested a 3-match ban, but Collingwood challenged it, and Maynard got cleared by the AFL tribunal. He went on to play in the prelim final and win the grand final with Collingwood 3 weeks after the incident. Now, the AFL is considering a new rule that might have already been introduced by the time you're watching this. Players could face a minimum 1-match suspension for high contact if they didn't try to avoid hitting their opponent's head. But unlike Maynard's incident, the AFL has already put the Jack Ginnivan rule into action. In round 18 2022, Ginnivan managed to duck into a bunch of tackles against Adelaide, but this time the umpires weren't handing out any free kicks, unlike previous rounds. Turns out the AFL had caught on to Ginnivan's moves. He'd even posted a video of himself practicing ducking into tackles prior to the game. Before that match, no one knew about the rule change except the umpires. They were told not to give a free kick if they thought the player with the ball initiated the high contact. Those frees had been helping Ginnivan score big. He had 40 goals for the season, putting him at 20th in the league for most goals. But just a week later against Essendon, Ginnivan didn't score at all, only his second goalless game of the season. In 2023, a whole season later, Ginnivan only kicked 12 goals in 14 games. Not bad numbers, but the Ginnivan rule was just too effective, and he wasn't getting nearly as many frees. Even after a decade of Joel Selwood pulling similar moves, still the AFL didn't do much. It makes you wonder, was this rule aimed directly at Ginnivan? Does the AFL play favourites? Well, Ginnivan's not the only player who's felt targeted by the league. The Jack Ginnivan rule is pretty new, but the Matthew Lloyd rule is the exact opposite. It's been around for over 18 years. Back in the late 1990s and early 2000s, Matthew Lloyd, Essendon's full forward, figured out a way to boost his accuracy on set shots every time. When he lined up for goal, Lloyd had this routine where he'd throw grass into the air and take a moment to get himself ready. The thing is, he'd often take 35 to 40 seconds on each set shot. And he got away with it, because the umpires rarely called play on. In 2006, there was a crackdown on this, and Lloyd had to speed up his goal-kicking routine or risk missing chances to score. Nowadays, there's a 30-second timer on the scoreboard, making it easier for umpires to adjudicate the rule. Players can now get penalised, like when Noah Bolter's set shot got smothered after he got called to play on, a moment that probably cost Richmond the win against Fremantle in their 2022 match. Umpires find it easy to enforce the rule, because they can know for sure if the 30-second time limit has passed or not. It's a bit different for this next rule. Things changed significantly for dangerous tackles when the AFL got tough on them in 2023. During that season, more than 20 players got suspended for at least a week due to stricter dangerous tackle rules. Players like Noah Bolter faced criticism for possibly exaggerating tackles to get free kicks. Bolter in particular was accused of tilting his head towards the ground despite landing on his body. But the incident that actually caused these harsh rules came all the way back in 2015, during a round 12 match between Port and Carlton. Bryce Gibbs lifted Robbie Gray off the ground and forcefully slung his head into the MCG turf, leaving Gray unconscious and needing to be carried off on a stretcher. Around the same time, another incident occurred when Essendon's Courtney Dempsey lifted Brett Delidio off the ground and slammed his head into the turf. raising concerns of a potential concussion or spinal injury. Luckily, Delidio escaped without injury. Gibbs got a 2-match ban and Dempsey got 4. While there have been many dangerous tackles which have influenced the AFL's stricter rules, these 3 incidents in particular played a crucial role in shaping the league's tougher stance. Before 2017, there was an AFL play called third man up. In a ruck contest, an extra player that wasn't necessarily a ruckman could jump up and either tap the ball to a teammate or steal it from the ruck. Many found this rule completely unfair because it allowed teams to significantly boost their chances of winning a ruck contest. Strangely, the rule wasn't changed earlier because teams didn't really abuse it. They'd use it now and again, but not excessively. That changed when Hawthorn started using it regularly around 2013, with it playing a significant role in their three-peat. Jordan Lewis was often the man responsible for being the Hawks' third man up. By 2015, other teams had caught on, with players like Mark Blicavs at Geelong making the most of this rule. Although Blicavs didn't rank high for hitouts by the end of the season, it was probably because he spent large amounts of time on the wing and in the midfield. The rule changes made ruck contests more balanced, making the AFL more enjoyable to watch. Now picture this, it's round 5 2018, a heated match between 4th place Hawthorn and 7th place North Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. The big moment? Ryan Burton's dangerous bump on Shaun Higgins, and surprisingly, Burton didn't even get suspended. Here's what went down. Higgins was about to kick the ball when he saw Burton closing in on him, so he decided to handball instead. If everything went as planned, Burton's bump would have hit Higgins in the shoulder. But Higgins turned, exposing his face to Burton's shoulder and knocking him out cold. It was a scary scene, with 5 medics rushing to help. Higgins needed surgery for a badly split lip, but it could have been much worse. Later that year, in round 22, Jack Ziebell did a similar, more intentional bump, putting more pressure on the AFL to change their bumping rules. And they did. The new rule said that players choosing to bump would be responsible for any injuries caused. If Burton did that bump today, he'd be suspended right away. Which rule do you think needs to be changed due to a player unfairly taking advantage of it? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below, and hit the subscribe button for more videos like this one.